Greetings, all. I'm your host, Soli, and tonight's guest is comedian, actor, and podcaster Marshall Gibbons. He has studied at Second City, Chicago, and done many viral videos and comedy acts with the Upright Citizens Brigade in LA, Funny or Die, and College Humor. He appeared in the vampire cult comedy film Blood-Sucking Bastards, was in a brief recurring role on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, is a recurring judge on the Who Would Win show, was recently interviewed on Make That Paper podcast, and now hosts the Fodder Good podcast. Welcome.
Hey, what's happening? Wow, man, you made it sound like I did a lot of stuff, man. Thank you.
You have.
I did do that. That's right, I did. Yeah, Ma, I did do some stuff.
You gotta promote Fodder Good more often, man. It's kicking. There's so many great comedians on there.
We love doing that, having the funny dads, because we got a lot to say.
Right. Oh man. So
well, thanks for having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's like it started with the trend of interviewing all the Who Would Win guys because they'd done all kinds of comedy acts and audio dramas, and then it's like, yeah, but Marshall's interesting because not only is he a judge, but again, you've done some ADR stuff. I think some of it's only a portion of it's like listed on your IMDb. I've seen you listed on some other voice acting sites.
Yeah. I don't know. I love doing all that stuff. So, and I love Who Would Win. So it's funny the judge community because it's a fun gig.
And seeing how it's just so funny how you mentioned also too how you would do actual security job works and yet you keep getting cast as roles. Well, why do you think that is? Is people?
I have a very authoritative. I've got Reginald Vale Johnson syndrome, where I just look like the authoritative security and or police professional.
Nice.
I've got like, it's funny too because I think I've got like way more security guard stuff than is even listed on my IMDb. Just because it's like uncredited stuff where it's just like cop over here, cop over there, security guard over there.
As a mobile security guard, I find it even funnier too how you share the fun of just kind of just going around and you're just like, hey, you might not find this interesting, but I'm telling you, here's how you know this and that about this company and this.
It's great, right? Like so you know what's up. Like
you profile people in a way to where you're like, I'm not doing it because this isn't a manhunt. I'm just letting you know.
Like, well, it's because like I've done security in clubs and dive bars. I've done security for big companies, so like I've done doing security.
Seeing all the elites kind of just spoil themselves.
Like I've seen every element through the lens of being this person to secure the premises. and you just get it all, and it's so funny. And yet I have still yet to actually hit anybody. So
no one wants to do that. It's not like the movies.
I like in all of my security experience, I've never actually had to hit anybody.
That's great.
Or on set, because I was feeling real froggy on that.
Ray Stacanis might be the first one.
I'm gonna fight Ray. Me and Ray just gonna have it out in the streets.
Shut up, Ray! You did not win. So, as a backtrack, while you were taking classes at Second City, Chicago, what was your? That was a paid internship. Where were you also working at the time?
No, so I
might have misheard it.
I was still I was still kind of in college, basically. Right. I was in school. I had a summer internship working for the post office, the main post office downtown. And
that has a great ring to it. Gibbons. Postmate.
It was great. It was great. It was awesome, right? And then I parlayed that since I went to college. I went to Northwestern, so I was still in the Chicago area and everything like that. So I was like, I got a job, like just a regular job there, and then intern. So I was kind of working at the post office, but kind of also taking classes. Like I was halfway in school. Um, uh, but then that's when I discovered like, oh wait, I could take classes at the Second City and be here and learn here, and this is what I really want to be doing. So that's kind of just how it evolved into, an internship at Second City evolved into working in the box office, and and it just went from there, stage
Oh, that's
managing
lovely.
and all that. Yeah.
Would you say your persona was already pretty well developed at that point, or were you still kind of trying to find yourself and then take the class and then
Um,
do the internship?
you know what? I think for the most part, like like who I was pretty. I mean, for the pretty developed in terms of comedically. Like I went from being a computer engineering major to wait a minute, I want to be an actor, specifically comedy. Let's do
I do
this.
not want to be doing payroll. I do
Like I
not
did,
want to
I
be
like
doing
I just
spreadsheets.
I realized at one point that I liked acting in front of people more than I liked being in a cubicle by myself. And so that realization just like, and so I think for the most part I was always kind of the entertainer, like just like, hey, I liked being silly and funny and carefree and being entertaining and making people laugh and enjoy themselves and stuff like that. So I kind of already had that in me, and so it just kind of unlocked it for me more than changed me into it,
There you go.
yeah.
Nice.
But it was great. It was great. I loved my time at Second City, in the training center, like back in the day. Like, oh, it was great.
How would you say have they changed up a bunch in terms of staffing and classes now?
Well, I mean, obviously, like times change. Like
Right.
I mean, that was 20 years ago when I started, over 20 years ago when
Mm-hmm.
I took my first class there. So they've expanded, they've gotten bigger, they've got a better training center than when I started. But matter of fact, when I started, they didn't have the training center like building and facilities. We were still taking classes, out of the Catholic school. There
Oh
was a
man.
local Catholic school that we were renting classrooms from when I started. So like that's old.
Well, no, this is cool to know because much like any colleges, the deans change, the
Sure.
oversights, supervisors. Andy Richter talks on his podcast how there was one comedy troupe where he got a very angry vibe from one instructor, so he refused to take classes there. So it's
Oh
interesting
wow.
seeing sometimes you can get a little just stink in the air, and then other
Mhm.
times it's pretty friendly. But either time during your time there, would you say it was very insightful and
My time
laid back?
there, I had the was like the best time. I can honestly say that most of my career is directly attributed to my time spent in the training center, coming through classes at Second City back in the day. Just going through the conservatory and the people I've met and just the things I've learned, and then the teachers. I had great teachers. Norm Holly like took care of us at the end when we were doing our conservatory show, our final written show together. Taught me a lot of stuff that I still teach to students today when I teach, because it's lessons that just kind of permeate more, outside of improv and sketch and things like that, that I was able to learn and be a part of. And I know, like, I might be lucky. There might be other people that might have different, stories and different experiences, and it all depends on the people that you're in class with. Like, I happen to be lucky enough to have a great group of people in class who, looked out for me because I was the youngest person there. Like I was fresh out of college, so I was the youngest person in the class. When I first started taking classes, like I couldn't even go to the bar with the people in class when they would go to a bar afterwards. You know what I mean? Like that's when I started. Like I was that young.
Oh,
So I know I lucked out with having just great, classmates, teammates, coming up through the conservatory program, along with really good teachers, and it was just a really cool, fun time, before, it got, super, super popular, and there's a lot of people in there, and it's good in and of itself. But it feels like that, like, sweet spot of a time where it was like, hey, hey, not everybody was doing it, but with the people that were doing it, we're like, yeah, we're in it.
The thick of it.
It feels like that looking back on it, you know what I mean? But yeah, my time there, it was just, yeah, it was really cool, really informative, really, like I said, like everything that I've done since then, the people I've met, like directly attributed to my time being at the Second City.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I remember you saying that you had support from family and just a very just pretty non-toxic environment. What were some of your other icons who just like, even if you weren't necessarily saying I want to be like them, you're like, they get me. That's a
Huh.
section of that's a quarter of my voice that's in that act.
Interesting. Well, so it's different. It's weird for me because growing up, like in the things that I used to watch as a kid, at being an only child, you sometimes you end up babysitting yourself.
Yes. Keep yourself out of trouble, bore
Yeah.
myself to
Like
death with computer
I didn't
games.
get into trouble. Like I had sports and then I had TV. Like I had
Great
sports and
mixture.
TV, and that's what was, and, you know, if I wasn't playing sports, I was at home in my room by myself watching TV. And so I grew up really young with a lot of like stand up and comedy that probably I shouldn't have been watching at that age, but it is what it is.
Hey, it is what it is. You're gonna watch
And
it one way
so
or the other.
so the thing about like it's, you know, to come back to Second City, was the SCTV was a thing. Like if people got, you got Nickelodeon and
What's
you get
that, kids?
right,
No, just kidding.
yeah, and then you get all the old shows, right? And so SCTV would come on like right around like I think like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I had my own TV in my room
There you go.
because as an only child, like, you know, mom's won a TV at bingo one night. Guess what? I got a TV now. Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
And so I was like, yeah, like you know, my homework's done because whatever, like like it was all good. I did my homework. I'm watching TV, and like SCTV was just one of those shows that I was just drawn to. Like I loved John Candy because I was a big kid, so like I gravitated toward like the bigger actors, the bigger comedians, right? So like John Candy was good for me. Like I'm watching SCTV because I'm like, okay, cool. Just like he kind of looks like me, you know what I mean? Like those are the
Hmm.
things that I could do, and it was funny. And it was just funny to me, you know, like I had like an older sense of humor as a 10-year-old watching this stuff. Like, oh yeah, I love this. This is fun.
That's eye
Um,
opening. That's really neat.
yeah, it was. Yeah, like I don't know, like one of those like baby ADHD genius prodigy. Like I was a gifted kid. I skipped a grade, but I was really just bored. And so like yeah, those kinds of things,
What
like I
else is there
got,
to do besides run outside, man?
yeah, and I got that kind of humor as a kid, and so it was just kind of, it was always stuff that, you know, like I ju- I remember watching something, an Eddie Murphy great Best of Saturday Night Live video when I was like 12, and there was a
There you
whole
go.
family, everybody was watching it.
Can't watch Raw yet, but you can watch this.
Right, yeah, exactly, right. And he does a bit as little Richard Simmons, and he sings
Oh yes.
and he's singing the song or whatever, and I remember laughing at a line and immediately knowing I shouldn't have laughed at that line because I shouldn't know, like I just shouldn't have this frame of reference. And so, but nobody else was paying attention to it like at all. Like everybody was talking and having their own conversation. So
Going over
nobody
their
was paying
head.
attention to what was going on. And I laughed so hard that everyone stopped, said, "Hey, what was so funny?" And they were like, "Oh, rewind it. We want to see it too." And so I had to lie and rewind it to a different section and fake a laugh at something that wasn't as funny so that they wouldn't know that I had laughed actually at when he said this was really raunchy, and like I should not have been laughing at it at 12 years old. And like, so like that's the kind of stuff that I like grew up with, was just like, oh, I like this comedy because it's older, and it's like it's more intelligent but also raunchier, and like there was just all these elements. So like for me it was like things like Eddie Murphy, SCTV, watching like all of those, you know, characters. I think I had a crush on Catherine O'Hara when I was a kid at one point,
Nah.
just strictly based off of one character she was playing in that show, her Lola Heatherton character. Like it was just like I like that was the thing for me. Like that's what I liked, like that, and
It's
because
even
I was so
funnier.
physical. that just got to me.
Oh, totally. Even when people aren't trying to gatekeep, sometimes they do want to censor, and it's like, no, no, we can have this dialogue. We don't have to
Mhm.
watch it right now. But it is funny how everyone just is like, okay, well, they can handle only certain kinds of sex or restroom humor
Right,
jokes. It's like,
right.
well, this is now. I mean, I feel yeah. I was one of the guys that would see parts of South Park, but I was actually laughing at what it was actually making fun of, which
Sure.
was people,
Hmm.
video games
It's
inspiring violence and politicians, wrecking the world, and everyone else is, of course, ruining it for you because they're just laughing at the content, which is all
right.
the massive profanity and
Well,
gross
we gotta
humor.
like there's a level of like trust that I think
Trust.
we have to allow. So we have to allow kids to be kids. Like first and foremost, we have to allow kids to be kids, but we also have to allow for a level of trust in that they are sponges absorbing things. And so if we can just
Love it.
introduce things to them in the right way and explain things to them in the right way, we can still have these conversations early that we think we can't, while also allowing them to be kids and be curious about it. Because here's the thing that I've learned with my kids is like, they'll ask a question, especially the really, really inquisitive one. She'll ask the question, she gets enough of her answer, and then she moves on, and then that's it. Like
Daddy, is Tom Cruise a terrible person? Yes, honey, he is.
see, they
But
don't even know who Tom Cruise is,
all
right?
right,
So
well,
like, I already did all right. Like, I'm good. I'm good. They don't even know.
are politicians crazy? Yeah. Read about it in school tomorrow. But yeah.
Yeah, see, but that's the thing though. We're able to at least like have conversations with them, like, hey, some adults just don't make the right decisions, just like sometimes you all don't make the right
Even though
decisions.
you're gonna check it out eventually 10 years from now.
Yeah,
How'd you know about
they'll
that?
know,
I was
they'll
watching it.
learn, and they understand like, oh, there's some things that are adult, and then there's some things that are that are okay for them to know and learn. And here's the thing, we like, because kids are supposed to push the envelope, we still let them ask the question, and then it's like, well, that's just something you're not going to know. Sorry, can't tell you about that right now, kid. You'll know about that when you're ready. And then let them be upset about not knowing it, but also at the same time, not gonna know. I'm not gonna tell you. You can't force me to tell you anything. So
And this is a good point though here. Would you say you've always kind of been very trusting and been good at just seeing through deceit or any just utter
hmm.
just BS? Because you open
um
up just anytime I'm hearing you in any kind of conversation or see you in any of these ensemble casts, you are electric, but you're
oh wow, thank
also,
you.
but, and
I I don't know. I think part of it is because I'm an only child. Um I actually I'm an introvert with extrovert tendencies and
I
characteristics.
love that. I think that many are. It's
And
just,
I didn't realize that until like way later. All I knew is I liked being alone until I didn't, and then I was always worried that I was missing something. Like I have FOMO.
right.
Like FOMO for me as a kid was hardcore. It's the reason why I would stay up until the sunrise, because if when I could, because it was like, but if I go to sleep now, something will happen. But if I go to sleep now, something will happen. And then I would just be up. I would just be up, and then the sun's coming up, and I'm like, hey, look at that, sun's coming up. So that's kind of where like that's kind of my like formation as a kid, is like that fear of missing out. So I always had this like pull to be around people, and but be around people in a fun and enjoyable way, I guess. Like I like
Yes.
you know what I mean? And but with always the I guess in the back of my head the knowledge that, but home I can be by myself. And so there's always that I
Alone
that
time.
I got that bat cave, that's that fortress of solitude.
That's the respawn
Uh
section in a video game.
exactly, right? Like I'm hitting save and I'm going to sleep. Um so for me, like that's just kind of been who I am, is like if I'm comfortable, then I'm out. Like I'm out here just, like I don't mind sharing things if I'm comfortable. I don't mind, being fun. I don't mind having a good time. I like entertaining people. I'm not going to always be entertaining, but I like entertaining
Nonsense.
people. You know what I'm saying? So like
Nonsense.
there might
You're
be
always right.
times where I'm like, I'm not feeling it right now. And like I just want to sit in the corner and just not do. anything. And that's okay, because it's like I do know that there's going to be a point where I'm gonna be like, hey, all right, let's party, let's go do this, let's go do that. I just, that's why I knew, like, when I tapped into that in college, when I just like discovered I was going to be an actor, is when I tapped into that aspect of, wait a minute, I like being out and entertaining too much. I just
There
like
you
this too
go.
much. I enjoy this too much. All of the signs point to this being my thing that I like to do. So I just kind of like, it was just great. It was great. I had too much fun in college, so that's why I didn't finish.
I feel you.
Second City took over, and then I was like, yeah, this is it. This is it. This is it.
Do you think peers around you have kind of gotten better? It seemed like for a while, like you say, there would be that socially acceptable hour, and then there'd be an hour where, yeah, everyone's kind of just pissing each other off, and it's time to go home. The party's out of control. I see so many times where, like, maybe 1 out of 10 people are good at reading body language, and I kind of get that gist of it whenever I enter a party scene. I'm just like, okay, this person, they're in that corner. They really don't want you. They'll come to you when they want to talk to you.
Right.
These five people, they're really having a good time. Maybe I can go over and talk to them. And it seems like everyone's getting better at observing human behavior versus in the 2000s where people would just tap each other on the shoulder. Hey, how you doing?
Well, so like, it's interesting you said that, yeah, because I think now people are more open with emotions, with mental health. Obviously, that's a big deal.
We're not a warmonger or fearmonger as much.
Yeah, and so I think with that comes more awareness of personal space and things like that, giving people their bubbles and whatnot. But yeah, like back when I was I can remember specifically, 20 years ago, I wasn't good at reading body language like that. Like I was horrible.
What does that mean? Space bubble?
See, I was also oblivious just to a lot of things. It was very, when you talk about me being trusting, like there was a definite, like, very much gullible, sort of like Midwestern, like, I don't know. I just have, there was a very much an innocent, gullibility about me sometimes. Back then, but which kept me from being very much aware of actual, like, body language stuff, which was funny because when I was a bouncer, then I didn't even really pay attention. I didn't care. Like, if I was there, I was going to put on my tired face, which to you looked like I was very mean and intimidating. And I was just going to do my job until there was a point where I could have some fun. Like, other than that, like, I didn't pay attention to body language. I didn't know who was about to fight until the fight started. Like, I wasn't good like that. I was just like, oh shit, somebody's fighting. All right, let me go over there.
And no one ever really, they can do all the training in the world. No one ever really prepares for when it actually happens. That's the crappy part.
Well, see, that's the funny part. Like, you can, except they don't train you to be a bouncer at a dive bar like that. Like,
True.
it's one step realer than Roadhouse. Like, it's not about everything. Like, I remember I actually got the job at this one club because in the interview I made it a point to say, look, I'm not looking to beat up people. Like I said, I was like, I'm not really looking to beat up people. I like to mitigate and stop,
alleviate
where it goes, or it gets too far.
De-stress.
Like, yeah, okay, good. We need more of that. Because little did I know they had hotheads that were working there.
Oh boy, you might have to deal with a disgruntled worker.
They needed somebody to not be a hothead who was in security, so that they could, like, mitigate some of the hotheadedness there. Like, but they didn't tell me that when I started. So yeah, like, I don't know, like, I just, yeah, that's just kind of been my attitude, my personality. It's like, hey, I want to entertain, I want to have fun, I want to be around people. I don't want to cause a scene unless I have to.
Yeah, fair.
But I just like being that way. I like spreading good energy.
Hey,
Even
yeah,
if it's not there, even if I don't have it, I definitely don't want to be the cause of bad energy. And I know we all have, slip ups and stuff like that, but like I
exactly.
never want to be the cause of spreading bad energy.
Hmm. Uh, why do you think everyone just seems to need to reevaluate how infectious said positive energy is? Like, there's nothing better than just a smile, and then everyone else starts sharing said smile.
Well, I just showed my kids some Ghostbusters 2 last night.
Okay.
And introduced to them that notion of the fact that positive energy was what defeated the ghosts, and it was the positive energy of everybody in the city getting together, and
They're
all the
out of
negative
shape.
energy is
They're the
what
worst
caused.
possible people to take on all these
Yeah.
supernatural
And
evils, and they do it
so
anyway. Yeah.
so they one of my kids asked, why is Ray the most unluckiest ghostbuster? And it was like, oh wow, you read this whole movie in this one scene, good job.
Nice.
um
Foreshadowing, kids.
like it was great, it was so perfect too, because like the look on his face too, it was just like that Dan Aykroyd look, and it was just like, yeah, you nailed it, good job, kid. um but I think it's because people are more aware of the impact of that positivity versus negativity. Here's the thing, there's a balance in this universe, we understand that, we know that. We know energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed, right? Okay, cool. So then let's see how much negative energy that's already out there we can transform into positive energy, because that is the balance that we need. The balance
Let's
is
share
just
it.
trying to make more positive energy. And when the negative energy shows up, trying to make it positive and trying to transform all that negative to positive, knowing that the negative will come back around at some point, and it's not about
Unfortunately.
avoiding it. It's just about changing it when it happens. um so yeah, that's just kind of, I think that's why people are thinking about it more and talking about it more. um Positive inner thoughts and positivity, it's that what is it, the secret, people secreting things, right? Because you
Such a
ask the
secret.
universe for something, and the universe will provide, if you, as long as you work your way towards that thing, the universe will help you. It's all pretty much in that same realm, and it's science that seems magical.
Right?
You know what I mean? It's like science that we just can't really understand yet because we don't have the tools yet. It's all the same thing. It's this universal cosmic energy that we all are a part of, made from, and contribute to, and therefore it's like, what are you gonna do with that? What are you gonna do with that energy? What are you gonna do with that
Connect
life?
the dots. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
It's
try to do that as much as possible. I try to like project that as much as I can.
so
It's hard though.
before.
It's hard because this world is crazy.
Oh yeah. Let's not even get started. But I know what you mean. It seems like many will rely on some televangelist or some radio host that gets them up in the morning. And how do you get yourself up in the morning before you just realize, I know what to make of the day, I know how to
Huh.
slide in and out
Hmm.
and get what I need and get everyone else what they need?
How do you wake yourself up in the morning? I just get up. I don't know. It's weird.
I mean, you did kind of
I don't
sound, it did sound like you were, did you ever have insomnia issues or?
know. Well, I don't know. So the clinical definition of insomnia is like you can't sleep, and I don't know if I qualify because it was conscious decisions not to go to sleep.
Right.
It was, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't
No,
like, oh man, I wish
it's
I
good
could
to
fall
know.
asleep, but I can't. It was like, don't go to sleep, don't go to sleep, don't go to sleep, fighting sleep.
The boogeyman will get me.
I
Yeah.
would fight my eyes. Like, my wife makes fun of me when she sees me do it because it's hilarious. Because like it starts with my eyebrows. Like, I have to raise my eyebrows, and it's like my eyebrows are trying to hold my eyelids up. And so if she sees me watching something with my eyebrows raised, she's like, "You're falling asleep, aren't you?"
Are you trying to
So
outdo the Rock's eyebrow?
yeah, it's crazy. It's like, so it's less like insomnia and more just like a refusal to accept what my body is trying to tell
What's
me,
inevitable,
which is go
you
to
know you
sleep.
need, but I can relate. It was one
But
of those
I
where
have trained myself now so that I don't actually sleep very long now because of it. So like
right.
5 hours a night is usually 5 or 6 is usually.
You go to sleep because you have to go to sleep, even though, truth be told, it's just annoying because you're just not doing anything for those 7 hours. But your body,
It's a
again,
wasted time, man. It's wasted time.
yeah, 7 hours you can't get back, but are required by your body, even though, like you say, you want to be doing some other things.
And look, this is where my science brain like gets me too, because like scientists still kind of technically don't understand fully why we sleep, and that's the thing that bothers me. Is like, damn it, can we just get a ruling on this so that I can? They're like, why do we don't know? I mean, technically,
and everyone's
be able
genetics
to refuel and just keep going, and it should like no.
Everyone's genetics, everyone's body is different, but at the same time, you'd think there'd be some kind of ruling at some point.
Is there a mechanism, something? Can we do the Kramer method and just like train your body to work off of 2 hours of sleep at a time? Which is hilarious to me.
Man.
Like that thing makes that like ideas like that make me go down rabbit holes where it's like, oh wow, that is actually possible, but I don't have the fortitude to actually put the effort into doing it.
Yeah,
it takes like weeks to train your body to do it. It's like, nah, I ain't got that time. I got kids.
In addition to this and that, you would literally need a base to do this all by yourself to test this
exactly
out.
Like you got to like go off somewhere like by yourself in the woods, test it out,
and then just the agony of going through it, and mentally stimulating. Then just like I will be exhausted and just be angry all the time if I do this.
Exactly. That's it. Yeah, it's like, man, do I really want to try this?
So which comedy scene did you kind of prefer more? The Chicago scene or the LA scene? Or apples and oranges?
Yeah. It's 100% apples and oranges. The Chicago comedy scene is great because Chicago is a live theater town. Like just straight up 100%. Like not only is it a live theater town, but it's a good public transportation town.
Hey.
You put those two things together and you got a lot of people going.
Win-win, baby.
Right, exactly. Easy to get to your shows, easy to go see shows, easy to get around, easy to find stuff, and it's great, right? You know where certain theater districts are, you know where these comedy clubs are, easy to get to. So like I love that. It's great. There's a community and a camaraderie. There's a, the way people do things. It's just really, and I grew up there, so like I just have to have I have a space in my heart for that. LA I love. I've been out here for 15 years. It's great. But it is different because everybody is here trying to get that job. Like this is why you came, right? Like you came here to get that next job. You came here to get that next gig. So live theater is not what it is in Chicago, and that's okay. It is what it is, because you got the comedy clubs here that are, hey, I'm gonna do, this is a famous name comedy club, but also scout in the crowd, agent in the crowd, like who's in the crowd, management, like who we got, like somebody's got to see me. Which you just don't get that in Chicago. There's not that level of performing to get the next job as much in Chicago. Although they're starting to
like
film
your
more
life
things in
depends on
Chicago
it.
now, right? Like you're in Chicago, it feels more about like, oh, this is the art, this is the love, this is the craft, this is your calling, this is whatever it is. That's kind of what it feels like more in Chicago versus LA, where, hey, this can still be your calling and your craft and all that stuff too. But also you're in LA, Hollywood, TV shows, movies. We're trying to, everybody, you will not go to a show in LA where there is not at least one performer who is performing for in the hopes that somebody is there that will see them and then they will get this next big thing or get discovered or whatever. Like it's almost impossible for that to happen because of the nature of the town, and that's okay. Because as long as you know that's what you're coming into, as long as you know, and there are still some good pockets of improv where they've taken it back to an improv and sketch, I should say, comedy theaters that they've taken it back to the roots of like, hey, this is about the art, this is about inclusion,
having a good time.
This is about I'm on the board of one of those theaters, the Ledge Theater, the Clubhouse in LA is a great spot where it's like, this is about the love of the game. It's
Oh, I love it.
that backyard ball court. It's just like, yo, we're not out here trying to, get into the league. We're just out here because we like playing. And if we get into the league, great, but nobody's there trying to do that. Packed theater.
Kind of like a very
Another thing that does
enthusiastic
that.
cover band. If we get signed, it's great.
Like the best version of that cover band of, hey, we love playing these songs so much that we would do this. We will do this no matter who watches us. We will do this no matter who's there. If you're there, great. We'd love to have you.
Instead of trying to
But
predict
we're going to
success.
do this for ourselves. And then if other people happen to come on the bandwagon, then the more the merrier. And that's like that. There are some places like that here in LA as well, which feels good, which is nice.
That's nice. Do you feel like a lot of that's kind of missing? Like I always hear that some improv comedians would hate performing in Vegas because it was sometimes a more ruder crowd. They want to just fart jokes and everything, or the venue was set up more awkwardly, like a convention as opposed to a comedy area.
I
Is there any way that you think it's easier to just kind of pre-screen and get a gist of how the place is, or did you just have to make extra time, like in between shipping off to your hotel and touring, to see what the comedy area is like?
I mean, so there's the whole aspect of comedy that's pure and, decent and innocent and, hey, enjoying, make people laugh. And then there's the part of it that's the business part of it. And so sometimes you have to put the business part in front and say, hey, we're going to put this comedy place here, like in Vegas or whatever. Like, Second City's had a Vegas review, and it lasted a little while, but like you said, like that's a different animal. Vegas is a different beast. It can work. It's just that knowing who is going to what for where. Like Second City's also had casts on cruise ships for years. That was a big thing of like, oh, we're trying to, you want to audition because you want to get a cruise ship because that's a pretty cool gig to be able to do improv and sketch on a cruise ship.
Right.
But the people that are there, like they know kind of what they are going, what you're getting into by doing a show at Vegas or in a cruise ship. And they know what they're going for, which is this kind of comedy. I think that when both parties know what's happening, then it's no problem, right? Like then you're fine and it's all good. But I think it's when you go into a place when you absolutely don't know. But that's harder to do in terms of improv because I mean everybody's seen Whose Line Is It Anyway.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to sneak improv on people anymore these days.
Right.
So those kinds of crowds, like a Vegas crowd, can be rowdy and raunchy, but I mean, if as long as the show is in a casino, there are some safeguards in place to keep it from going too crazy. But even Broadway's has to deal with people, kind of stepping out of bounds. That just happened this past week, I think, or last weekend.
Oh, really?
With a drunk audience member who like interrupted the show, like enough where the actor Wendell Pierce had to like step out of character to address this person, and then the police actually had to show up. So
Jesus.
It can't.
Bunk
So
from
that's
The
the
Wire
thing.
had to shut someone down.
Yeah, Bunk had to let him know. Bunk had to let him know. don't mess with the bunk. You can't mess with the bunk. So in a way, it's like that can happen anywhere. Now I will say there are savvier audiences than others. Yes, you can kind of, like in Chicago, because it's such a theater town, people are going, because Second City in Chicago is a very tourist attraction. It's
Absolutely.
the place. It's the place. It's where's your favorite comedian? Who's your favorite comedian? They came from here, right? So it's a touristy thing. But even then, there's a level of like respect and understanding of like, no, but we're in this place, so we'll behave accordingly. There's very rarely are any issues with patron being too drunk. Not any more than any other like stand-up comedy club. You know what I mean? So
Not more than the other, but just enough.
it's just enough sometimes, you know. But there's something about doing a comedy show, like sketch, a review that add the theater element, put something in a patron's mind that allows them to sit back even further versus doing stand up and it was like, hey, you're talking to me, so I'm gonna talk to you. It's like, slow down.
It's like you got to put this, like you said earlier, the safeguard in place just to get people to calm down.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, they are like, "Oh, I must do something I wouldn't do to anyone else. Put my hands on you."
What?
No, you shouldn't.
Like, yeah,
Don't do
you would
that.
never do this in any other point in your life. Why now?
Mm-hmm. I'm no exception. So altogether, uh, when were you able to finally network with a bunch of other comedic friends and do a lot of the various web series?
Oh wow. I mean, like I said, because of starting at Second City in Chicago and then becoming a
You're
stage
already ready.
manager there, and then when I moved out to LA, I was like, okay, I'm gonna jump into a new community and wait a second, I need a job. And so then I went back to Second City to be a stage manager.
There you go.
And then it was there, like, so like I said, like Second City is responsible for a lot. It was there that I met one of my writing partners right now, who I've written a bunch of stuff with, and done some things with, and a bunch of other people. And then through just being a stage manager in Hollywood, met people who were at UCB and IO. And even though I knew some people from IO in Chicago, I never actually did much there. But meeting people in LA through being a stage manager, and hey, you should come do this, and hey, come check this out. And to be honest, the first video I think that I ended up doing here was a video called Me and Usher Have a Weird Relationship. And I was playing Usher. It was an Usher and Justin Bieber video, but this was back in 2010, so Bieber still was like, I don't know, he's like 12 years old or something at the time. I don't forget how old he was, but he was still very much a little kid looking person. And so that was like one of the first videos that I think that was the first video I did that kind of sparked, like, got me out there to get into more, because I did that one, and then from that got invited to take classes at UCB.
Nice.
And from there met a bunch of all those other people that I end up work with, and then that's how I end up doing all those UCB videos. And that's how all of the so many UCB people working at Funny or Die, working at College Humor. So then that's how I got into all of those videos, and then
There
through
you
that,
go.
it's just like, oh, you're meeting all these other people. So that's why I say, like, Second City is pretty much the thing that's responsible for me doing so much of everything else, is because of who I met through just being at Second City.
That's
and
sweet.
doing that stuff. Yeah. So yeah.
What would you describe your writing and brainstorming room to be kind of like?
It's chaotic.
Throwing shit around.
My so like my writing style comes from my improv, basically. Like, when especially if I'm writing by myself, my writing dialogue specifically is just me improvising both characters in my head, which is easy for me to do being an only child. I talk to myself, so it's easy. But in terms of like my overall writing style, it's collaborative. I do my best work when I'm working with someone else.
Nice.
My brain seems to love to find the questions and ideas that are out there, and then like asking the next one and then figuring this out, and oh hey, what are you trying to get here? Hey, what if we try this? Why not this? How about this? What if this character does this? What if this thing? Like my brain, like I just love collaborating with people, so that my writing style is very much collaborative. I
That's
have
awesome.
several different writing partners, and it's a fun thing for me, and it also helps with my like my ADHD like task task avoidance too, because it's like, oh, if I'm bouncing these ideas, can you type while I just say the stuff? This would be great.
This needs to happen, but it's not gonna be now.
So yeah, I think that's what my writing style is, just mainly chaotically collaborative.
Did it ever get to the point where someone else would have an idea, but they were afraid to stand up for it? So you were like, I guess I'm going to be the question asker. I'll ask it, the producer, programmer, since you guys are being chicken shits.
No, I don't know. I don't think I've been in those situations. I think for the most
Marshall
part,
knows what how to ask.
Like it's interesting because like there's been a significant chunk of my life where I've been like the youngest or one of the younger members of the group of whatever is happening, and then at some point it shifted to where I was like one of the older, or if not the oldest. Which was funny to me because it was like, oh wait, now I am the person that might have to say something. But for the most part, I think most of the situations I've been in like that, everyone's been so communicative and collaborative that like I don't necessarily feel like I have to stand up for someone else. I feel like I'd have to stand up for myself more than anything and be like, no, I don't think, and I don't believe. Can we compromise on this? And that's, I mean, that
yes
is what
or
it
no.
is. It can be frustrating, but like I'd much rather collaborate and come to a compromise,
an understanding,
about things, than for me to fully be a dictator about something. Because like, yeah, it could work out and that'd be great, and like, yeah, I was right, but like there's no satisfaction in, yeah, I was right, now only listen to me, and then now all of a sudden nobody wants to work with me. There's no satisfaction in that, because I might get wrong sometimes. I might be wrong sometimes, and I want to know if I'm wrong. I want to know. So.
Do you think you're good at kind of just interpreting the different comedic styles that every performer you're working with? Because some of them are a little hard to read, or they'll just shout down ideas, and you're like, well, hold on, you didn't hear everyone else's idea.
If we've been around each other long enough, I was on a mod team at UCB for about 5 years now, called Oh Brother, and we literally just over time we started to just really learn each other's comedic sensibilities, the rhythms and stuff like that. Like I knew the kind of scenes that like each writer was going to write, but I also knew that each writer knew how to write for the different actors in the group. So like I knew the kind, like when somebody wrote something for me, I knew it was going to be good because I knew they knew the kind of stuff that I was good at and the kind of things that I like to do and what would be fun for me and fun to see me do. So it's about that time. It's about time and with those other people, those collaborators, in terms of figuring out. But I do think that because of how I consumed comedy and just television and entertainment in general growing up, I am pretty confident in my ability to kind of move in between certain styles. Like I can't nail every style, but I do know that like I do know that I have an ability to say, oh, this is the kind of show and style this is, and okay, so let me try to do this, and this is the kind of thing that this thing is, so let me try to emulate that. But it's because I just consumed so much as a kid. I liked it all. Yeah. I just was like, oh, this is so good. And that plus like, at a certain point in college, I was also a DJ, and
oh, sweet.
And so that my love of music and being a DJ also kind of plays a part into how my head sees comedy,
You love remixing it
collaboration, and
all.
stuff like that. Like, yeah, I can, like, different styles of music, I can see those different styles of comedy and stuff like that.
Nice. What have been some of your favorite improv and comedy styles to mess around with your group? Tuskegee Experiment, and why did you decide to name it after one of the worst events in all of history?
So Tuskegee began through when
It's spelled with an X for those who are listening.
Yes, with an X, yes. That was born from me being a stage manager at the Second City here in Hollywood, and the other members of Tuskegee being the one or two other Black members of whatever other team that they were on, basically. Because, yeah, there's not a lot of there was not a lot of diversity and in the improv
Okay,
and
no,
sketch
that's
comedy
no, I just
world in
that's very
general.
eye-opening.
So what happened was I would see them like every week, like I'd see them all the time because I'm the stage manager. I'm seeing them perform, and then and one day, like, me and my writing partner Jason, got together and we're like, man, you know what, why don't we just do a show? Why don't we have a group? Why don't we just make a group, and we could be this person and that person and that person and that person? And we were like, oh yeah, that's great. We're talking back and forth, and we were actually at a restaurant in Hollywood, and another friend of ours was there, and we were like, yeah, we should call it. And we were just kind of thinking of names, and another friend was like, it might be funny to call it the Tuskegee Experiment.
Oh, shit.
Just because we were like, it's an all Black comedy group, and it's like, hey, let's see what, because we were already going down the road of being controversially funny, right? Like, we already knew that that's what this was, and so that name was like, yeah, you know what? I think that works because we know what it is, but we also knew that not a lot of people know what the Tuskegee Experiment was, and so we decided, well, that's what we are. Like, we are going to take tragedy and make it comedy, and from the jump, like, that's our thing, and so that was our style. We're going to teach and we're going to educate through our entertainment. Like, we're going to make you laugh, and at the end you're going to realize, oh wow, I learned something. And
Gotcha.
So that's just kind of how we came up, we went with it. And so
There's a moral to the story.
Yeah, I came up with the tagline. So our tagline was catch it or we'll give it to you. Because, I mean, if anybody doesn't know, I'll just briefly say, like, if anybody doesn't know what the Tuskegee Experiment was, from 1932 to 1972, the United States government allowed the Tuskegee University allowed experiments to be conducted on the Black population of Tuskegee, Alabama.
Yes.
Who, if they came with syphilis, and instead of treating the syphilis, they gave them placebos.
They made them guinea pigs.
Made them guinea pigs, essentially, to see what the effects of the syphilis would be. And so for 40 years this went on. And I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at the fact that we decided to turn that into the thing that we experience with
right.
our comedy. So that's why our tagline was catch it or we'll give it to you. And so we introduced every show by explaining what that brief explanation of the Tuskegee Experiment, and then we would ask for a suggestion, and we would like a suggestion of a social injustice, something as serious as the Tuskegee Experiment, or as trivial as traffic in LA. Like, we wanted to give people that option, like, hey, anything can be a social injustice if you want it to be. So we're going to start with this horrible thing, and then we'll give you this range, and then we'll see what comes up. And some people would come up with some, shopping or whatever, and it'd be lighthearted, and that's great. And we can still find a way to, inject our, like, real version of humor into it. But sometimes people would say something like, the Holocaust, or something like, something very tragic. And it's like, okay, well, let's see what we can do with this. Let's see what we can do with this suggestion, because that was our job.
That was your challenge.
Our challenge that we gave ourselves was to turn something tragic into something comedic, and while also giving you a lesson about something. and we had like our perform like everyone in the group like is just super intelligent, just like we got teachers and people that work in politics and producers are on the squad, and so we just had this breadth of like not just the human experience, like, but the Black experience, but also just this breadth of knowledge of anything and everything. So that was our style of comedy, just hitting you in the face with everything, anything, and not holding back, because why?
Absolutely. And why do you think, obviously we know that media is driven by negative attention in general, but you see it even with movie reviews where it's like they don't want to be constructive, they just want to rant, and comedy's kind of been channeling that a bunch too, where like Neil Brennan and Dave Chappelle said that when they were writing for Chappelle's, sketch show, that if the skit didn't really go anywhere or wasn't saying anything, it was automatically rejected. They'd film it, but if there was no essence to the satire they were doing, is like, it's not funny. Even if it is or isn't funny, it's already not funny because there's no 1, 2, 3.
Right.
But what do you feel like comedy is just kind of exhausting its commentary after a while, where people are joking but they don't really have a purpose to it? It's getting too random.
Here's the thing.
I get that it's easier. I'm just saying
that so there is that. There's when something's easier to do, a lot of people are going to do that, right? Now, you couple that with the fact that it's also easier to do, like, logistically. Not just that it's easier, mentally, it's easier logistically. Everybody's got a phone, everybody's got a camera, everybody's got internet access or can get to it. You can walk public library, internet pops up on my phone every time I walk past it. Like, it just does.
Sweet.
Right? So not only is it easier to do, but it's easier to get it done. And those two things coupled with, then you put that together with, the people that found it easier to do and easier to get it done are also the same people that are really trying to do it and really are putting themselves out there. So those are the ones that we get to see. And if that's what we get to see, then all the other people who are aspirational, like, well, I know it's easy to do and I know it's easy to get it done. How do I do it? I just got to do it like that. And then it just feeds itself.
Spreads like wildfire.
Feeds itself. Yeah, exactly. So I don't think that comedy as a whole is like in this like lost state or whatever. Like, I don't necessarily think that. I just think that it's the people that are most visible doing like, it's just that fact. There's people that are more visible doing those things, but also there are some people that are not as visible doing some really great work. Are doing, or not necessarily, the proliferation of the person on the street holding a little tiny microphone or a phone and interviewing random people on the street, and that's where we're getting our content and comedy from. It's easy. It's easy to do. And so, like, I think I saw something where there was someone imitating that video, but it wasn't that. It was like, it was something else, but it was an actual sketch, but talking about that. Like, that's harder to do because that takes effort, that takes writing, that takes planning, that takes a lot more, right? Like, that takes a level of observation of what have I seen? What am I seeing with all of these videos? And what's the common thread? And what are they really trying to do? And what is it replacing in terms of our education or not education, but our entertainment and our imagination, like all that stuff. And then to make a video about that's a sketch making fun of those kinds of videos, that's different. That takes effort, and those don't get as much because those don't get seen as much because of that effort.
Oh, totally. Especially when we're in a we're past the 2007 era where people would send a reply to every other video. And sometimes the video host that would be the challenge. It's like the first 5 videos I see that are awesome, I'm going to share on the show. It was the equivalent of share a voicemail, share a voice message with a radio or podcast still kind of exists. But like you say, now everyone's got to twist it up. Is like, I'm going to do what you did, but even more demented or even more insane.
Rinse and repeat until somebody gets the bright idea. Ooh, I'm going to scramble all of this up and I'm going to make a statement about it. Right. And then once that happens, and then that'll start to catch on a little bit. But then the message will be clear, like, oh, we are moving on from whatever that thing was on to the next thing. Right. Like the big thing for a while was just all of the lip syncing video stuff, where it's just like, hey, let's just lip sync an entire scene, but we'll act it out ourselves and stuff. And like now you don't see that as much because it hit a wall where somebody was like, wait a second, and they turned it on its head, and now it's silly to do that because it's done. It's over.
Right. It's faltered. Now it's time to go plant a seed in a different garden.
Let's move on. Let's try something else.
So you're married now, started fatherhood, fathergood. Why did I say fatherhood? That would be.
That was all good.
But when did you just feel in 2021? You were just ready. It's like, hey, I'm on all these podcasts. I might as well start my own.
Well, so it was funny. So me and Kenny, my co-host on Father Good, we were both on Oh Brother together. And we both had our kids around the same time. Like his kid maybe about half a year earlier than me. Mm-hmm. But we would always kind of just talk about that aspect of, you know, being a dad in this comedy world and stuff, and just all of those things. And actually when the pandemic hit, or just before I think the pandemic hit, we talked about, hey, you know what, man, all this, you know, we should maybe try to do a podcast or something. But it wasn't like anything necessarily like concrete. But then once the pandemic hit, it was like, yeah, so about that podcast.
Internet's not going away until the EMP goes off.
We got to do it. Yeah, it's like we got to at least try. So that's kind of what it was, because we just wanted to just shoot the shit about dad stuff and in a way that we hadn't heard, we didn't know about, and we would have conversations and then think, man, this is stuff that other people should be they probably would like to hear or talk about, or you know what I mean, like just frustrations with being a dad, but like not in the sitcom way.
Right. Not in a fathers are sorry lie.
We're not that. It's just like, these are the real things that we're talking about and dealing with. And I think it helps that both
give
Kenny
dads
and I
a voice.
We want to give dads a voice, but Kenny and I both we both have strong intentions on raising the best people possible. And so I think we both are in a journey of improving ourselves as well as improving the lives of our kids and stuff like that, but in order to improve the lives of our kids. And so I think that's why it works, and that's why we kind of were like, yeah, this makes perfect sense for us to do this.
Nice.
And we all knew other comedy dads who were having kids, or just like we were at that age where everybody was starting to have kids anyway. So, or it was either everyone was starting to have kids, or some people had kids so long ago that we didn't realize that they had kids because their kids had been so much older. And so that's kind of like, we were like, let's just do this. Let's just do this.
Go for it.
Yeah. And it's been great. It's been fun.
Very nice. Very nice. Any other upcoming comedy events or stuff that you're brainstorming, web series even?
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm pitching a couple of animated series that I've co-written with a couple of different writers. So I got a couple of those projects that we're working on it. We're working on it. We've got a couple of production companies that are working with us, and we're about to take those out. At least one of them out to pitch soon, which is fun.
What agency are you rep by?
We are not actually rep by an agency, so
suck it, agents. I don't need you.
Not independent. But that doesn't mean we won't take some representation. But we got some projects that we're working on. My production company that I started with some friends of mine during the pandemic, because that's what you do. We've got several other podcasts. We have like we're doing like a little mini podcast network as well. And I'll actually, depending on when this is coming out,
Black History Month.
Oh, sweet. So you all should then check out Unicorn Boy, which should be out by then because it premieres at the Slam Dance Festival at the end of January. I've got a few voices in that. It's starring Patton Oswalt,
Sweet.
Maria Bamford, a couple other great voices. But that premieres at the end of January. So by the time this comes out, you should be able to check it out on the Slam Dance channel.
Yep.
Or wherever paperbacks are sold. No. But yeah, other than that, and just that, and doing some comedy. I'm doing shows at the Ledge Theater. The Ledge Theater at Impro. If you're in LA, the Ledge Theater is now at our new home on Vermont at the Impro Theater. Our grand opening will have already happened by the time you hear this, so just come on out to check out shows. We got shows Fridays and Saturday nights, and then stand up. I just do stand up randomly. Just you find me, see me in the streets.
I gotta also ask it. Does anyone ever just like recognize you, just like in the streets every once in a while? Or just like, hey, you're the guy from the Funny or Die video, How Not to Murder People.
Look, I wish.
I wish. At the same time, it's a good thing. Get privacy. But
well, look, I like I said, like part of me is like FOMO. Like I don't mind being recognized. It's fine. I don't care. Like I know how to handle it. Like it's cool. You can say, hey, say what's up. I like. Because the way I look at it is, first of all, I'm not like world famous. So granted, I don't get stopped everywhere and things like that. But for me, I'd like to think that if I provide someone with an amount of joy and entertainment in their lives, then I'm okay if that amount of joy and entertainment makes them want to say hi to me. Or, like that's like, I'm not like, because I know what that feels like. I know what that feels like. I remember meeting Mr. T when I was a kid. I know what that feels like. So it's okay. Wow. So like, I'm okay. So I feel like I would hope that when I get to that position, if I get there, like I'm okay with, being recognized. I will say, I got a haircut once. I got a bad haircut once. Because the barber had just finished smoking weed just before I walked in.
Oh,
normally I would be okay with that, but he didn't want to actually cut hair, and it was like we should lock the door. But I got a haircut from this barber that did make me look like Donald Glover's older brother for a very long time.
Oh my God.
And I say that because when I walked out of the barbershop, someone immediately said, hey, you look like Donald Glover. And I when I say immediately, I mean like I was not a half a block away from the barbershop when this person stopped and said this to me. And then was not the only person to say this to me for a good 2 weeks until my hair grew back into the right hairline that I had. So that has happened.
Have you ever thought of doing more video games, kind of like LA Noire, where you got to do some motion capture for it as well?
Wow, that was that happened so randomly that I could not even tell you how I can get back into it.
No, it's fine. I mean, I see so many stunt performers and athletes.
But that particular thing, like that was so random how I got involved in that.
It was a big game. It came out of nowhere too.
Yeah, it was through some Funny or Die or College Humor. It was through some improv stuff, like because being the thing about Hollywood and improv is that within your improv ranks and within that community, there will probably be somebody who is a producer or writer or executive who has just decided to take improv classes and is just like loves being in the community. And then
they want those kind of voices.
You get random opportunities because of that. Like I got to go to The Price is Right because of something like that. Like it's just randomness that happens. And so that's how I got to do LA Noire. And it was funny because there was only, I think, like maybe 10 of us, maybe doing it, like maybe. And I feel like that might be a stretch. It probably was somewhere like 7 or 8.
Oh, totally.
Doing this, shooting all of these scenes with the mocap stuff on, like having the ping pong balls on, like you're just like, yo, I'm in this. Right. And
it was being done with some post Call of Duty games, but then by the time, Avatar came out, just about every fitness, stunt performer, even makeup artist and graphics person was being utilized for all this, because they would even do tie-ins. They do an expensive Super Bowl ad in addition to this other campaign, or this other cell phone mobile game for this other expensive CGI Aladdin blockbuster. It's interesting how, like you say, it flows into one or the other, and the market's still kind of doing that. And they tried to kind of do that with home media for a while. Do you want digital or DVD or Blu-ray? Because one of them's going away, and then none of them went away. And so then now everyone's having to realize, stop trying to predict success. Just stop.
We don't need to have this VHS beta debate anymore.
When you do an anime, you don't have to market it to be like Samurai Champloo or Akira. If you do a new, and once again, if you do a new blockbuster, it does not have to look like John Wick or Fast and Furious. It can be its own crazy brand of weirdness.
But that's the thing about.
But like you say, it's easier.
It's the business. It's the business.
It's the
business of it. The business of it, because there are no more DVD sales, right?
As much.
Not it's damn near like almost extinct for the most part. I mean, people will buy DVDs because it's,
if they don't have TV. Yeah.
But like for the most part, nobody really needs to buy the DVDs. Like I've seen where my DVD collection is now. And it's like, oh yeah, I remember that movie, but I guess I could just go watch that movie. Like, what my DVD player is now is my Xbox, because we got rid of all the DVD players because we weren't really using it. It was like, so it's like a gaming console, but it's because it's the business of it. It's easy and it's a business, and the business part says that we're not going to make our money on DVD sales anymore, and so we have to make our money on the front end at the box office.
Unless it's the only way you can get that title.
What is the way that you get the money at the box office is you got to have a big budget, and then you got to do a bunch of crazy stuff.
And streaming's even more unpredictable. They keep losing the rights to different titles, to where some people are like, fuck it, I guess I'll get the Blu-ray set.
That's why there's so many different streaming platforms now, because it's like, all right, well, let's get your niche here and your niche there, and here's your noggin here and your freeform there, and your Netflix is over here, but you got Tubi and you got whatever else, Amazon Prime, and hell, my Samsung Smart TV's got its own set of channels. Like, it's like
your own digital downloadeds that you bought 7 years ago.
It's so funny too, because like you'll scroll through the Samsung TV channels, and it's like, what there's a 21 Jump Street channel. There is a That Girl channel. There is a Family Ties channel.
Oh my god!
And it's just 24 hours a day of all of those shows. Like that, like it's whatever now.
Oh man. And sometimes those channels even go away and they rebrand it as a different channel. You're like, wait, no, go back.
Tiny House Nation channel. There's one channel, and it's all Tiny House Nation. That's all they play. My kids love.
Oh wow. Oh my god. Oh, so this has been a hoot. This has been enlightening. This has been a relief.
It's been fun. Thank you.
It's been real. So it's been a delight having you, and I hope that the rest of this year is just incredibly just uneventful. Just there's no melodrama into the end of the tunnel.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This has been fun.
Absolutely, and this was sincere. This was really neat, because just like all these interviews, we like to just we don't want to just do a interrogation and just pick everyone's brain. We want to actually let everyone know that the struggle continues regardless of what your day job is. And so
I love it. Yes, you're right. The struggle continues.
And
It's
trust me,
really
the more
cool.
famous you are, probably the more annoying your life is too. So yeah, you don't have to deal with that.
I don't know. They say money can't buy happiness, but I think that's a lie that they tell people.
It also depends on who your accountant is. So
That's true too. That's true.
uh,
I see you got the bridge in the background. Are you in San Francisco? Where
I
are
have
you?
family there. I'm actually in the shithole that is Dallas, Texas right now. So
Oh no, oh no.
I am dealing with all the Stans and Karens of the planet right
Yeah,
now.
gotcha. Oh man, I do not envy you. I am sorry. Get thee to Austin quick.
Oh, I'm actually more keen on San Antonio, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
Really, really, San Antonio's better.
Well, I mean, it depends. I just
Sure.
overall like the general vibe and atmosphere each time I vacation over there.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. I haven't been. I've only been to Austin a few times for
But
the
yeah,
comedy
Austin's
festival down there.
basically Hollywood of Texas.
Yeah, yeah. Just avoid where all of the other people ran to Texas who didn't like California. You gotta stay away from those guys though.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
But yeah, man,
And
thanks for having me, man. This was fun.
anytime. And keep inspiring others.
Thank you. I will try.
And I just signed up for the Who Would Win Patreon, so I'm enjoying all the blooper videos
Woohoo!
that get released. I'm like, jeez, thank God that didn't make it air. That would have been too off color. Damn it, James, why'd you go there?
We have fun. We have fun.
I know.
But
We know what
thanks,
we
man.
said.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And keep kicking ass as the judge. I don't care what anyone says. You are the best judge. You are the best judge. Here's why.
Look. Oh, thank you. Please tell me. Tell me why. Tell me why.
Because I just love, to those who listen to Who Would Win, it is a fight between fictional movie and TV and comic book and so forth characters. Sometimes it's book characters, as the recent Percy Jackson thing. So it is funny in that, yes, Ray is off color and off putting and over the top and shameless, while James is often taking shortcuts while also trying to be the straight face guy and the bigger man. And it's hard because anyone, if this wasn't a PG rated show, they would already be bitch slapping each other by the time the episode is even barely done recording. And you are having to just always justify yourself. No, hold on a damn minute. James, I love you, but you didn't even represent the best moments of that character. You just went to like a cliff notes, which again is always like bullshit compared to actually reading it. And Ray, of course, will want to be over the top, and you're like, oh, whoa.
Yeah, whoa.
Not it. I've lost track of how many. Let me finish, Ray.
Let me finish.
Let me finish.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I've known them for a while now. I've known Ray for a very long time. Actually, Ray and I started our stand-up careers together.
Oh boy.
Our lesser known stand-up careers started together in the same class actually. So I've known Ray for a very long time. So
was Ray's stand-up, did it go as you guys suck? Cricket.
No.
Okay, good.
Ray, see, that's the thing. Ray's hilarious.
I'm sure he is. The voice is great
I
because
love Ray.
you just know he's going for it.
He's from Detroit, and people from Detroit are just angry, and that's understandable because they're from Detroit. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna get a lot of hate from that.
I know what you mean, though. I was actually recently there for a family wedding in Ann Arbor, and
oh, nice.
I saw a lot of people. It was funny. I was just at the airport alone. And depending on the corner, depended on the mood I was feeling. Going back to mood, I was having a lot of people very angry, waiting on their food that was taking too long. And then I saw a bunch of others indecisive on which flight to get on. And then I saw others just very calm, chill. And then others just minding their business while angrily texting.
Right. And I kid because I'm from Chicago, so that's where my
one of those angry texters was my sister.
But yeah, no, it's Ray's great. Ray's fun, and I think I feel like the reason why I feel comfortable doing that and being that kind of a judge with them is because I actually want to get it right. Like I actually want to get it right.
That's just it too. It's not a popularity contest as much as Ray likes to play.
I feel comfortable with Ray knowing that they want me to get it right, and so I can be like, hold on, Ray, or wait a minute, James.
Wait a second.
Because I grew up collecting comic books like this. Like I stopped at a certain point just because I don't know, like you stuff happens, and
I can't even explain the show to others.
You
because
age out of it, yeah.
Yeah, well,
but I love that stuff, and so I want to do the listener justice as if I were listening to the show.
1,000%. Growing up, it was uncool to be a nerd or a geek. It was like, okay, go back to your parents' basement. And then around 2000s, people started, you were able to filter out the ones who were just socially unfit as a whole, just awful people, from the ones who were fine, like yourself, but you have a geeky side. And now, you guys are doing totally all the fun kinds of versus arguments. That is like, I was always looking at hysterical forums about this because I couldn't talk about it with anybody else. They're like, I would say, so-and-so versus so-and-so. Who cares? I do, because I legit want to see this cool fight scene on the screen.
Like, who cares? I care. That's who
I care. I wouldn't have asked you if I didn't care.
If you don't care, that's fine, but you don't have to not care.
You don't have to kill the mood.
It's the people who've heard Father Good have heard me say this before. It's don't yuck somebody's yum.
Yes. Yes.
Which I did not. That's not mine. I got that from Nature Cat. PBS Kids is the greatest. If you're not familiar with that,
PBS is
by
amazing.
the way, PBS will sneak up on you. Nature Cat is voiced by Taron Killam, and his one of the it's Taron Killam, Kate McKinnon, Bobby Moynihan, and Kate Matucci are the four main characters in
Prius and O'Gals guys.
And
one Big Bang Gal
and Oates and
Garfunkel and Oates. There you go.
And it's hilarious because if you know that, and as the adult
comedian who's following other comedians,
there are some things that happen in the show where you're like, yeah, okay, that's funny, and you get what's going on because they're the comedians who are doing it, and you're like, okay, that's good. So if you're looking for some wholesome stuff that you can watch around your kids but also be entertained by, give Nature Cat a try, because then if you like comedy, you got some comedians in there.
I will check it out. And that is well, that we've had that ever growing evolution of we got to make something for everybody. Because if it's because even kids don't want to watch just only kid friendly stuff. They age out of it after a year.
The greatest thing I found now is that people like me are the ones making kid shows.
Yeah.
And therefore, they're making it so that the adults will sit there and enjoy it too. Like, it's people like us who are in our age range, our demographic.
You can't change the animation,
our sensibilities, right? And they are making the content now for the kids while also making it for the parents. And so I get to enjoy some of these things. It's great.
It's great to have the best of all worlds.
Yep.
Well, keep lifting everyone's spirits as well as your own, and kicking ass and taking names.
Thank you, Cam. Thanks for having me.
Anytime, my dude.
We'll return after these messages.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
We let things pile up in the DVR, we add them to our queues, we wait for the DVDs and Blu-rays. We time shift. The Time Shifters Podcast. Sci-fi, horror, fantasy, superheroes, comedy, action, film, television, maybe some not-so-current events. Find us on iTunes or at timeshifterspodcast.com.
Cool thing about Blind Knowledge is we are in multiple countries. We are worldwide all across the globe. We are in the US, we are in the UK, we are in Canada, Germany, India, Japan. We're in Australia, y'all. BlindKnowledge.com. Now back to the feature presentation.
Dragon Ball Z, One Piece, Naruto, all things that we love, all manga that were originally published in the legendary magazine Weekly Shonen Jump.
But not every series can run for 300 chapters and have a hit anime. This is David.
This is Jordan.
We're the hosts of Shonen Flop. Each episode we look at manga that ran in Jump that didn't quite make it.
We discuss what it did wrong, what it did right, how the series could have turned itself around, and ultimately, was it a flop or not?
We're on all your favorite podcast apps, and you can find us at shonenflop.com.
Keep on flopping, floppers.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show.